All right, the Reds, it's the preview show on the Anfield app. We're looking ahead to Crystal Palace v Liverpool on Monday at 8 p.m. Rob, we talked last week on the preview show about having to wait to watch Liverpool. And here we are again, having to wait to watch Liverpool. And it's the very last slot this time, Monday, 8 p.m. It's a terrible time for football, that, isn't it?
It's a sick joke, is what it is, Gareth. And, yeah, it's a bugger. Travelling down on the Monday just feels, I don't know, it's all kinds of wrong, isn't it?
It's an hard place to get to as well, isn't it?
Yeah. You sort of in your mind's eye, it's another London away, but Crystal Palace is barely London.
No,
it's virtually Brighton, you know. But you know, it is what it. Now we're getting nearer to it. I'm less. What's the word? Testy, less fractious about the thing. Just really looking forward to it. It's nice that we're going there in fine fettle, isn't it? It's nice that we've won.
It is. And how unprofessional of me, I haven't introduced everyone, have I? Rob Gutmann,
hey.
Melissa Reddy. And so, yeah, let's talk about it then. Palace, obviously managed by Roy Hodgson, our mate, another reunion with him. Great. But Palace got a lot of credit for the 2-0 at Fulham. You know, I was listening in on the radio, and I know Neil mentions it on his segment later on where he'll be getting into the tactics. They were getting an awful lot of credit, and yet when you look back at the highlights, when you look back at the sort of the picture of the match, if you like, it seems that Fulham had lots of shots, all the possession, and Palace hit them on the break a little bit.
I watched the extended highlights of the game, and more because I was interested to see what Fulham were looking like. And they had everything beyond the final ball. Their crossing was atrocious, and their short passing as well was really, really poor. And if they had that facet, the only thing was that sharpness in the final third and like that decisive 10% that can decide a game. But beyond that, they were really good. They were better in midfield. I think they had like double the amount of passes. They had 60-odd% possession. So they did look quite good, but without the thing that really makes you pop. Yeah. And Crystal Palace obviously were in a position to take advantage of that, and no surprise that it was Zaha that proved to be, you know, quite the difference between the both sides.
Best player outside the top six. Should we settle on that? I think he is.
I think that's fair, and they've paid the money for a player like that now, haven't they, as well? £130,000 a week, an extended contract.
Yeah.
It was interesting. There's a segment coming up where we go and speak to a Crystal Palace fan. We went down to London and spoke to him, and sort of when we were having a pint with him as well, he was saying then he had no fears that Zaha was going to leave, and he was proved right. He said that he'd heard he was going to sign a contract. He heard that it was going to be about this kind of money as well. And he's grown up in that area. It's his club, it's his family are around there, and he's already had the go of going to Manchester United, it not working out. And there's a lot to be said, obviously, for being in an environment that you're comfortable in, and that's what it seems is the case with Zaha.
It's a strange one in the modern context, because I think if this window had gone to the 31st of August, there might be more tests for him. I do wonder what's in the contract. Is there a release clause? Possibly. Let's put it this way: he'd be pretty unique, I think, in modern football context if he just even at 130 grand a week, if he keeps making the progression he's making, if he wants to sit it out there. I mean, the last really top player I can think of who continually, you know, just eschewed all interest from bigger clubs was Matt Letizia. And you're talking in the 90s there.
Yeah.
So if he continues on the path he's been the last 2 or 3 years, the pressure is going to be enormous on Palace and him.
He obviously is playing the best football of his life because he is comfortable there, because he is their reference point. And, you know, there is a currency in that, and being the person that the entire club is, you know, hinging their hopes on. I don't think he lacks ambition. I think he's quite smart in the fact that he's not just going to, like we've said, he's done the big move that doesn't work. So I think he's going to be more surgical in his future choices and what he thinks of doing.
Make sure he definitely gets a game. Because he could have moved to, say, Liverpool or Spurs and found himself first reserve, couldn't he?
Yeah, and that's probably been on his mind. I want to continue to sort of play Palace down a little bit, if you like. And the reason for that, though, is I just think lots of Reds, for whatever reason, have got Palace in their head a little bit as being a bogey side. And we'll come on to look at previous results and things like that. But again, just looking at last week's matches, you know, the first match, the first idea of how they are this season. You know, Wayne Hennessy is one of the best players for them. He pulls off a string of saves. You had Sacco, lucky not to give away a penalty for a foul on Shearer. You've got Mitrovic for Fulham saying, I should have scored a hat-trick. So, you know, it feels to me that Liverpool can go there, have a go at them, cause them problems and win the match. There's nothing to fear in this match, is there really?
No, it's interesting. I think they don't play their three big-ish new signings. Is it Max Meyer, Ayew and Koyata? I don't know why entirely. So I don't know if they've got a little bit more to give, and they'll be on home turf this time. And I mean, I've been to Selhurst Park a number of times throughout my life, and if Palace, if they give their home fans any encouragement, they're a handful on their own pitch. But we found ways to beat them in recent seasons. You know, late winners, admittedly, but we have found ways to beat them, and we're stronger. I just hope we can harness this energy we've got coming out of the summer with the positivity around the club, the big signings, the good pre-season, the convincing win over West Ham, the way our boys are gelling at the moment. I just hope for the sake of the momentum of our season, it's a very, very important match. I wouldn't say I don't care how we win it, but it is a big one. We do need to win.
Well, Palace were 11th last season. Palace fan Robbie Scotcher, who we're going to speak to now, he's tweeted within the last 24 hours, he's a good lad, he says, "This is a good day to take stock. Every podcast and every news outlet has a say on our academy player Wan-Bissaka, our homegrown fans, our manager signed an extension, Roy Hodgson of course. We were first on match of the day. Our squad looks strong and our talisman has signed an extension. Anything can happen in football," but he says in capital letters, happy days. So Robbie's a good lad, he's happy at the moment, and here's a little bit more with Robbie on Palace, what to expect down there, about the fan culture, and where you can go for a pint if you're going down there. Okay, here we are at Crystal Palace's football ground, Selhurst Park. Not the easiest place in the world to get to, I think it's fair in saying. So what we're going to try and find out today is, once you've made your way down here and negotiated London, whatever way you decide to do that, then what can you do when you're here? Where can you go for a pint? And what's the fan culture like here? That's what we're going to find out today. Liverpool's record here, I think everyone regards these as a bit of a bogey team. And yet last season we won. There's a 4-2 win against them as well. We won at Anfield last season against them too. There have been a few upsets though, and I think that's what still gets up people's noses. The 3-3, Christanbul, as the Evertonians called it. They obviously won at Anfield in Steven Gerrard's last game as well. There's the 4-3 if you're old enough to remember that one. I certainly am, in the FA Cup. But then of course we've got the 9-0 as well. So let's have a chat to one of Crystal Palace's fans and see what we can find out.
I'm Robbie Scotcher, Crystal Palace fan, been coming here since I was 7 years old. First game against Norwich, we won 1-0. And here we are in the Clifton Arms. It's a very local club. It's everyone who lives around here, they can see, because of where the club is as well, it's kind of on a hill. So, you know, we're always in the shadow of the club. We used to have 50,000, they cut the amount down of the ground to about 25, 30,000 now. And that's about it. That's about our support. In terms of the fanatics, and yeah, I think a lot of people like coming to Palace. I think they enjoy the atmosphere that we have. I think people always walk away talking about the fanatics. But I mean, it's not just that. Across the road from this pub here, there's a shop, and Jason Punchin's mum used to own that shop. Right? Jason Punchin, I think, was a paperboy at one point in that shop. Wilfried Zaha used to live 3 streets away from here. It's such a local club. It's so localised, and whenever you see a Palace, I was walking over Waterloo Bridge, and I saw Roy Hodgson walking past me, and I stopped and said, "Sorry, Roy, I'm a Palace fan," and he stopped and gave me 10 minutes. The other day, I was walking down the Strand and saw Eddie Izzard, who's also a Palace fan, and I stopped, said, "I'm Palace," and he stopped, gave me 10 minutes. Palace fans will talk to Palace fans endlessly. We love our club, and we all feel a really strong connection with each other. Generally speaking, you're a much better club than this. You've got much better players. It just happens that we raise our game when we play you. And I just think the way the two teams play, it can go a bit mad. The games can get a bit crazy. And that doesn't happen. I mean, if you ever watch Palace-Watford, it'll be the worst football match you'll ever see. And you'll never see anything happen, and you'll never see it go anywhere. But against you, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely one that all Palace fans look out for. They love it. There's a Wetherspoons in Thornton Heath, and there's a couple of other pubs along there. So across the road from the train station, there's a Wetherspoons. I can't remember what it's called. That's a good place for away fans. But everyone's pretty friendly round in Palace. I mean, this particular pub is a Palace pub. But yeah, I go Thornton Heath, or there's the Railway Club at Selhurst Park Station. That accepts away fans too. But I mean, you can stop and talk to any Palace fan. We'll love a chat.
Okay, big thanks to Robbie there. We'll be doing that for all of the away previews. We'll be speaking to a fan, getting the lowdown on their club and also the area and where we can go for pints and things like that. So hope you enjoyed that and let us know. Yeah, just a little bit more really on Crystal Palace not being a bogey side. It's really bugging me. The last 5, we've only lost 1 of these games. We won 2-1 last season, 4-2 the season before, 2-1 the season before. We beat them in the FA Cup 2-1. So there's a 3-1 in 2014 sound. Other than that, we're doing all right when we go there. Last game in March was a bit of a mad one. I watched the highlights back before and, you know, Benteke's missing a couple of chances. Trent gives away the penalty with Zaha. Mane's booked for a dive when he should have had a pen. Then he decides to grab the ball and he should be booked for that and he isn't sent off. But he gives the free kick. And it was all a bit mad, but in the end, Mo boxed it all off and scored a well-taken goal at the end. Again, nothing to fear, Mel.
Yeah, it's interesting how, you know, we've looked at Crystal Palace and what they did last week. For me, Liverpool were at a 6 out of 10. And to be so convincing against West Ham at what I think is nowhere close to Liverpool's capabilities, that was really encouraging to see. And I think that, if anything, they're up for these kind of aways, the ones that people assume to be, you know, the banana skin. I think they'll genuinely be looking forward to it. And as much as we're all sitting here thinking it's been a long wait and it will be a long wait until Monday, I think they're feeling the exact same way. They want the games to come because I don't know if you guys can sense it as well, but there is this renewed conviction about the team. I think more than it's ever been, and obviously, you know, getting to the Champions League final helps that thinking. And last night I was at the premiere of All or Nothing Manchester City, and there's a clip in there where Pep Guardiola is in the dressing room and stuff, and he says, "It doesn't matter if we win or lose the game coming up, because what I see now is you guys know how good you are, and that is a very scary thing." And I think this Liverpool team is in the same sort of period. Absolutely.
And, you know, Hodgson as well, we've got to mention him at some point in the show. I don't want to go too big on him. Yeah, okay, he's the worst manager we've ever had, and he's a knobhead, and he's got a crap haircut made out of shredded wheat and all that kind of stuff. Sound. But also, Liverpool against Hodgson sides, this is another thing where I kind of feel like Liverpool fans talk him up in terms of him being a bit of a threat to us. Yet Liverpool have played against Hodgson sides 11 times, won 4, drawn 4, lost 3. I like this as well, by the way. I've managed to find out pretty much how he set up every time. And, you know, guess what? It was 4-4-2, 4-4-2, 4-4-2 with a double 6, 4-4-2 with a double 6, 4-5-1, 4-3-1. You know, he's not... Yeah, you know what he's going to do, basically. And again, you know, the manager will know what he's going to do. The players will know what he's going to do. Nothing about Palace is going to come as a surprise to Liverpool, is it?
No, and I don't expect a different game from the one we saw last time out, where we get the late winner. Initially in that game, we were able to come on to them, and they, if memory serves, they sucker punch us, and then we get lucky with a few bad misses by Benteke when he tries to counter it, when they hit us on the counter. But no, nothing's going to surprise us, I don't think. Everything they do is going to be via Zaha, and they're going to look to hit him long and early, and maybe they look for Benteke to get a knockdown here or there. I think Trent will have to think hard about what happened last time. I think it'll be a test for Joe Gomez if he's selected again, which I expect him to be. It's the sort of game against the sort of team where I think it'll be a real test of his credentials as a centre-half. Again, he tends, when he's not concentrating, to get attracted underneath the ball. And
they will play a lot of high balls as well.
They absolutely will. They'll be determined. It's up to us to just show our quality and break their spirit early on. What are you saying about the belief in the side? You sense that coming into this season. You wonder how strong it is. Can it take a setback? It hasn't had one yet. It's only one game into the season. How it reacts to a setback, and you could have a setback in a game like this, will be instructive, I think, about how far we've come.
Well, we say it's obvious what Roy Hodgson's going to do, but Neil Atkinson has been speaking to Crystal Palace fans this week. He's got an idea, he's got the lowdown of what Roy Hodgson might do. So here it is, Neil Atkinson with his tactics board to tell you how Palace are going to set up.
At Crystal Palace, Roy Hodgson has found himself with a set of players who very much suit the way in which he likes to approach football matches. But there's none more important than Wilfried Zaha. You can make an argument that Wilfried Zaha could be pound for pound the most important player to any Premier League side. And Palace have got him on a big contract this week. He'll be looking to mark that on Monday night with a goal. Zaha's record last season, basically, if he didn't play, Palace didn't win. It was that straightforward. And he averaged around 1 in 2 at home. The way they tended to use him was, this is Benteke. Benteke comes right up here. Tends to have someone else playing off the flanks, and Zaha, having been a winger, became more of a forward. Yes, at times they used Saul off and tried to do something else, and they had a little look at a couple of players, but predominantly we saw it when we went there. Benteke and Zaha coming from either flank with his pace, his power and his ability to arrive, and that's the threat of Crystal Palace. It suits them down to the ground. And Benteke last season, yes, he only scored 3 goals. Yes, he was hugely disappointing in front of goal, but what he offers is that point of reference that Hodgson infamously talked about at Liverpool. That suits Benteke, it suits Hodgson, and it very much suits Zaha. So Schlupp will probably be here, Townsend over here, and then you've got MacArthur and Milivojevic who'll play through the middle of the pitch. I might have mispronounced that, but we'll be all right. Across here, you'll have Van Arnold, who really gets up and down and gets around Schlupp. Sakho and Tompkins, I was speaking before to Robbie Scotcher, and he feels they've created a really nice little centre-back partnership. One to watch, though, is going to be Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka last season, he comes in towards the end of the season after having impressed in training against Zaha. And he comes in to play right back. And then he plays up against Liverpool, he plays up against Manchester United, he plays up against Chelsea, and he never, ever, ever disappoints. Last weekend, Fulham faced Crystal Palace, and they were on the front foot for much of the game, Fulham. But Pat Nevin on Radio 5's commentary said that Sessegnon, who was much vaunted before the game, he finished it in Wan-Bissaka's pocket. He called Wan-Bissaka's performance spectacular. So let's bear that in mind when we're talking about what Liverpool are going to do in this game. That's where we're back to thinking with this Palace side. You're not going to outrun them. You're not going to be quicker than them. Liverpool are going to have to be technically good and tactically as switched on as we saw last week. The question is how we deal with Benteke. Pressure on Gomez here. Pressure on runners around Trent Alexander-Arnold. And remember last season for that as well here. If he starts, it wouldn't surprise me if the manager goes with Klein. But the match may well be won yet again in these little areas here. Can Liverpool outthink Palace with the ball at their feet? Can they be technically smarter, tactically sharper, and can they turn them round? It should be a great Monday night game.
Okay, brilliant stuff from Neil. Neil's also got a predicted team, a predicted Palace team for you. So this is how Neil expects Palace to set up. We've talked a little bit already about their threats. We know who their star men are. More want to concentrate in this final part of the show on Liverpool and what they're going to do. So we've also asked Rob for a predicted Liverpool team. Rob, you've gone Alisson, Trent, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson, Wijnaldum, Milner, Keita, Salah, Firmino and Mane. No real surprise, you've just gone with the team that played fantastically against West Ham, although Mel's only given them a 6 out of 10, which is quite harsh. But
that's way harsh.
I just want to quiz you on a few things. I mean, it is your team, so I'll start with you. I mean, we've mentioned earlier in the show about Trent did have a little bit of a tough time against Zaha, although he did bounce back really well after that. Also as well, Liverpool in the same game sort of struggled with that long ball to Benteke at times. So 2 questions then. No thoughts, no temptation to play Nathaniel Klein rather than Trent?
That's an interesting one. No, I don't think so. I mean, the only thing that mitigated against even picking Trent against West Ham was lack of pre-season minutes. But he's come back looking fresh. I think he looked more confident than ever against West Ham.
Delivery was lacking a little bit, though.
Yeah, it was. I think it's slightly...
It was really windy the first 20 minutes at Anfield, though.
Oh, so. Yeah. It was sticking up for them now.
It was. I think that was actually born of slight overconfidence. But I thought I don't know. There was an aggression on the ball. I think there's no chance Klopp doesn't go with him again. I think they'll have a little chat about what happened at end of last season. It's very difficult to see where Klopp could make any changes unless there's some knocks in training in the couple of days before the game. It'll be a difficult call on Jordan Henderson. Even so, I mean, he's the club captain. He looked sharp when he came on. He's naturally fit. He will be straining at the leash. But I just think how Milner, Wijnaldum, last 2 games, one a pre-season friendly, one the game against West Ham, playing too well. They're just playing too well, and I think out of respect for that concept that if you play well, you stay in, I think they have to keep their places.
I mean, Klopp does seem to favour sort of a meritocracy, if you like, in terms of how well people are playing. Equally, though, he's been very upfront about the fact that he's going to rotate this season. He did that last season, although at the moment we obviously haven't got the European qualifier and stuff like that. Nevertheless, you know, for you, Mel, is there a temptation to maybe start Fabinho? Is there a temptation maybe to play Henderson? Reason I ask, Fabinho's 6'2", Henderson 6 foot, Ronaldo and Milner 5'8", Keita is 5'7". You know, is there a temptation to play a defensive midfielder with a bit more height to guard against the Benteke threat?
Yeah, I think the only place or position he'd look at, and there would be a sort of double-mindedness, would be the 6 and Jordan Henderson starting. It's so difficult because the midfield 3 did play so well against West Ham, and he's come out and referenced particularly the work they did and how they were the foundation for that victory. In saying that, though, you're right. I think height will play a role. Henderson, you might have to force the game against Palace, and Henderson's better at doing that as the 6. So I think that would be the only real question mark. No, I think he's still adjusting, and he said himself he's got to get, you know, into the rhythm of Liverpool's play, and I don't think you throw him in then at Crystal Palace away. The Trent stuff, you know, that wasn't all on Trent. He was left isolated because Liverpool didn't win the ball in midfield. No real pressure being put on Benteke. We remember, you know, Lovren coming out and wanting to win that battle that wasn't his to win. So I think what Trent will look at is how well he did against Sane, who, you know, if we're talking about quality players, in my opinion, better than Zaha.
Do you think it's a question a little bit of how they win the first ball, as you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that goal, that concession, that goal at Palace was referenced again in the United game, wasn't it?
Yeah,
a few weeks before.
Exactly.
Lukaku this time too.
That original, winning that original battle is so important, and Liverpool didn't do that enough whenever there was a target man, as the United game showed as well. And that's up to your midfielders, really, because if your centre-back's coming out, you are then leaving the space for the full-back to get exploited. But yeah, I think Trent will look at, you know, the other wingers he's come up against, Sane being the prime example, and how he dealt with that. So I don't think, you know, last season and that game will play too much on his mind. And Liverpool did a lot of work on how they guard against their own set pieces. You know, when a team is looking to break from a counter, and which is what Palace tried to do to them last season. So a lot of focus was done on that during pre-season preparation. So I think Liverpool will be fine.
Just lastly, Rob, is there a difficulty as well, do you think, in that if Klopp is tempted to go with Henderson or even Fabinho, although, you know, Mel's playing that one down, that idea, is there almost a problem for him in that if he dropped Wijnaldum, what do you say to him? Because he's played so well, as you just said before, and you know, we know that he favours psychology. We know that he likes to sort of be on side with the players. I mean, he referenced even Moreno last week and said it's very difficult for me now to say why he isn't in the team or isn't on the bench, because he's doing nothing wrong in training. He's playing really well.
I think you'd expect Wijnaldum to take it if he was the full guy and he had to bring in a tall centre, number 6. I think Gini Wijnaldum I feel he's got the personality to take it. I think he comes across as the consummate professional. I think he'd like his manager to be an understanding that he comes back in pretty sharpish. Yeah. I think that's really the acid test. I think any player could accept a tactical variation and go, okay, all right, today. But I have earned my place, haven't I, generally, boss? And I think that's what the player's going to want to see. And that kind of trust between manager and player can only sort of evolve throughout a season.
I think also all of them know that nothing is guaranteed. And I like that attitude. I like that every single training session and every game you've got to be spot on, because there is so much competition, especially in that midfield area. And, you know, you referenced Alberto Moreno there. I thought he had a really strong pre-season, and even in the open training sessions and stuff that you could watch, he was completely on it. So to not be in the squad, even though you've done so well, I think that's, you know, a wake-up call for everyone. And we looked at the options on the bench last week and the players that didn't even get a kick. And that's still without Klopp having a full roster. So there are going to be some big-name omissions in future. And I think you've just, you know, got to accept it. If you want to be part of this, of a successful squad, and of a squad that wants to win everything, that's part and parcel of it.
Okay, dead quick then. Rob, prediction?
3-0 Liverpool.
Okay, brilliant. And Mel?
I'm going to go for the same.
3-0 to Liverpool. Okay, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Let's hope Liverpool can go to Selhurst Park and win 3-0. Whatever happens, there'll be loads and loads on the Anfield app, including a post-match pint, which we're going to do here from Liverpool. Rob's going now. Paul Senior's going now. They're going to send us a little bit of video back. We're going to discuss what happens. We'll sew that in. Look out for that on YouTube. Hope you're enjoying all the new content. And that has been the preview show. Up the Reds.